It is good to be here, and I think what I'm going to reflect on briefly is about the contribution of the Productive Ageing Centre and indeed the research that's undertaken by the group, and I think its significance to not only National Seniors and to its members but to the broader community. So I'll just walk you through a little bit of that. Information about National Seniors certainly is in your show bags, and those of you that are members I'm sure will be aware of all of that. Those of you that aren't members, no morning tea, no lunch. You'll have to stand in the back row with the non-photographed people before you become a member. No, we just encourage you, if you're not a member, to think about, for a small fee, joining the organisation. At the end of the day, we can only support, as I'll indicate in a moment, activities like the Productive Ageing Centre through a membership base. We're independent. This is the only funding that we have a connection with government about, and it's a dollar for dollar contribution. So membership is incredibly important to us. Okay, now Emma, there we go. One more. National Seniors, I think all that material is really in your pack. Independent, over 200,000 members, and we've been around for 37 years, so we're not Johnny-come-latelys on the block. The Productive Ageing Centre, just briefly about that, it's a major part of our organisation. The centre conducts research, both itself but also in collaboration with other experts, that advances knowledge and understanding of the issues affecting the quality of life of people aged 50 and over. So it's not limited to any particular age cohort, but 50 and over, and the different cohorts in that, and the opportunity to research across that field and to share the outcome of that research is incredibly important. PAC, or Productive Ageing Centre, PAC we'll call it for the moment, disseminates its findings in the research community, and that's important given the significance of the work, but also, importantly, translates its research findings into much more, let me be polite about this, user-friendly information that a non-researcher like me and I'm sure others are able to better appreciate the significance of. Also, we've seen the introduction of some tools that help explain the information far better. So we'll talk about one of those, a healthy ageing quiz that's been developed by the Productive Ageing Centre that disseminates its findings in a more creative way. The centre is jointly funded by National Seniors and the Federal Government's Department of Social Services. So we each are in that, as I said, dollar for dollar. As Gail indicated in her introduction, I've been involved with a few industry groups and representative bodies across agriculture and in mining, both at the national level and the state level. And I think the investment, the development of the Productive Ageing Centre is something that's really significant and sets National Seniors apart from groups in all kinds of industries. To have your own dedicated research group within the organisation, a research group that's got excellent staff, that produces information that not only supports our advocacy activities but is shared across the community, that increases the knowledge of the community about issues involving ageing, is very, very significant. Something that I think, as I said, sets the group apart. Having done it for 10 years now, I certainly acknowledge the wisdom of the former leadership of the organisation at board and management level some 10 years ago when they first initiated that idea. And of course, PAC has gone on to bigger and better things over those 10 years. The Productive Ageing Centre, kind of research that's done, just to give you some sense of the diversity of it across those areas. So there's no singular focus at all. It is applied broadly, and that reflects the nature of our over 50s cohort. So you've got people who are still in employment, folk who are looking at new lifestyle activities, health issues always there, finance very important for people's future, right through to aged care. So as you can see from that, very diverse, lot of research that's undertaken. Why do we look at healthy living and productive ageing. Well, healthy living should bring the choice of spending longer time in the workplace for those who are in that situation, more opportunities for people to contribute in the community, and certainly engaging with their families and friends in the community, and importantly, many more years of independence in people's lives, whether in their own home or elsewhere, but maintaining that independence. I think we also recognise an increasing number of older Australians who constitute a real resource of talent and skills and experience. And that, of course, is incredibly important. Some of the research reports that have been produced by the organisation, too many to name, but if I could just highlight a couple of them I think are particularly relevant. Certainly health conditions and employment among older Australians, going to both health but also employment and the opportunity for people to participate. Meeting the hidden costs of care in the home. So too often the role of carers, as you know, is forgotten about, not appreciated or acknowledged by government or the broader community. So the piece of research not only looked at the nature of care in the home, but the kind of costs that it imposed and the challenges that presented to people providing that care. So very important. Working beyond 65, well, it's working to 70 now, as you know. So the 2014 piece of work on the influence of health on being able to work well past age 65 was very, very relevant. Excuse me. The breadth of work partly reflected there, but certainly goes on far past that. The Healthy Ageing Quiz, which is, you'll see there, is one of those tools that I alluded to earlier where research is converted into people being able to use it in a quite practical way. So the quiz was, or the Healthy Ageing Quiz came out of some research and essentially now involves 22 questions across broad topics which people are able to consider, whether online or hard copies available, and using the results of that provide you with some guidance or provide people with guidance about the nature of their lifestyle, their living, how they would deal with ageing, and I guess the challenges that may be presented to them in their lives going forward. So the chance to respond to those before heading into, for example, retirement particularly, because as you know, it can be very easy to wander into retirement and not be well prepared. Planning goes well beyond just the financial planning that we tend to emphasise greatly. Why does National Seniors hold annual forums? Forums are held because it's an opportunity to celebrate the kind of research that's done, the kind of research that applies to older Australians across the community. So we distribute the results of our research extensively across the media, to governments, to ministers at Commonwealth and state level, through to local authorities, as well as, of course, into the research communities. But this does provide a chance for us to celebrate the work of the Productive Ageing Centre and their research outcomes particularly, and their applicability to all Australians. Each of the forum fora, as I learned is the word for forums, each of the fora have been different across the years. A particular topic in ageing provides members, community groups and governments with up-to-date research. So each year something slightly different, and as Gail indicated, last year's was very informative, and I'm sure today's will be as well. We are pleased to have a great panel of speakers who've contributed their time and energy towards the forum today. Whilst we can rally people to come along and listen and appreciate and disseminate information, we do need the speakers to participate, and can only express my gratitude to those speakers who have come along and are willing to share their knowledge and information. As I proceed to wrap up, can I acknowledge the work of Tim Adair up the front here. Tim's the director of the Productive Ageing Centre and has done a great job in establishing it here in Melbourne. Well done, Tim. To Emma, who's putting on today's thing and saved me a moment ago. Twa and Ruth, who I think are hiding down the back in the dark. If each of you could just stand up briefly, including you two up the front. So these are the 4 research staff from the Productive Ageing Centre. I'd urge you to have a word to them in the course of the day. They can share with you what the centre does and what they individually do as well. But for a small centre of only 4 staff, they do a great job. And I think Bernie is here as well somewhere who helps to run the centre with Tim. Finally, I want to conclude with some observations about the current outlook for older Australians. I guess this is the other side of national seniors. It's fair to say that older Australians, and indeed ageing generally, has been the cause of much discussion and focus across the past few years, and particularly the past 6 to 9 months. Ageing and older people have been demonised by some ill-considered and ill-informed debate from commentators, think tanks and parts of the welfare sector. That's been damaging and has caused distress and anxiety for many older Australians. I just want to put a few remarks to put that in context. Older Australians want and should, in a first world country, be able to age with dignity. People want to continue their own retirement, want to contribute to their own retirement, and indeed, if they could live without the involvement of government, would happily do so. People understand that they may, if their resources allow them, be required to make a contribution to their care and accommodation in their later years, if they have the resources that allow them to do so. Equally, older Australians should expect policymakers to understand the limitations of a fixed income, the limitations of employment when one is a carer, or the challenges of employment if one becomes unemployed in one's 50s. And governments need to provide certainty in retirement income, superannuation and investments, and particularly at the moment, not to provide banks and advisors with an unfair advantage by reducing consumer protection. Those of you that some of you may know what I'm alluding to there. There is currently before the Parliament some major changes to financial protection for investors, and on all our legal advice, it is most adverse to consumers. And I would urge anybody who's interested in that issue to inquire of our website. You can gather some more information there, or if you're really cross about it, pick up the phone and ring your local senators here, Madigan, and the incoming Senator Ricky Muir, who will be very important in this issue in the next little while. Finally, and in the context of the research capacity of the Productive Ageing Centre, older Australians must be celebrated for their contribution, past, present, in the future. They need to be seen and regarded as an asset, whether in the delivery of care, volunteering, civic and social duty, or indeed in the workplace. For all the doom and gloom about the impact of ageing and the world, the tsunami and the end of the world approaching us, the penny will drop soon enough that there is an enormous opportunity with ageing, enormous opportunity for business, for the community, for government. The size, the spending power of the older generations from now for the next decade, 2 decades, is of such significance that it can be seen as nothing but an opportunity. I'm pleased to indicate to you that the Productive Ageing Centre is finalising a new piece of research that measures the many and various contributions that older Australians make. Now, that research will be released in the next 2 months. Tim's had a sneak peek at it and indicates the contribution of older Australians is very, very large. And that research will be an important response to those many armchair critics of ageing. And I think importantly, it demonstrates the relevance, the significance of the work that the Productive Ageing Centre does in providing consumer research in the broad productive ageing space. And I think that's very, very important for us going forward. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I hand back to your chairman.